Tens of thousands of Coloradans who work for the federal government are waiting to see if they'll be paid over the holidays. Elon Musk and President-elect Trump have torpedoed a deal to keep the government running. Xcel wants billions of dollars more from customers to build a new system, and it's all your fault.
The customers are driving these choices. We have to build the local grid that can meet those choices.
Denver says it's hit functional zero for veteran homelessness. That doesn't mean there are zero homeless vets in the city. 44 years in the same spot for a bookstore on Colfax. They're not sure if they'll make it through the city's next big project.
Nobody in their right mind drives down Colfax anymore.
I'm told nobody in their right mind watches Next either. That's probably why we get along so well. 36,000 Coloradans are closely watching their dysfunctional managers at their workplace tonight. A bit more than 24 hours from now, those federal workers will not be getting paid. Not to mention the disaster assistance, food assistance programs, everything else impacted if the Republicans who control the U.S. House can't pass a bill to keep the government running. About an hour ago, dozens of Republicans defected to vote down their party's own bill. They previously blew up a bipartisan deal to keep the government running after there were objections from billionaire Elon Musk and President-elect Donald Trump. The House now has until midnight tomorrow. The Trump-backed plan didn't pass because it would have allowed more government borrowing through 2027. Colorado's highest-ranking member of Congress is Democratic Rep. Joe Neguse of Boulder. He said to us today that Republicans tossing out the bipartisan deal to go on their own was deeply frustrating.
I am deeply concerned, very concerned. Concerned on behalf of the Coloradans that I represent, concerned, on behalf of the many folks who are part of the federal workforce in our state, our federal labs and military installations. As you know, the federal workforce is very large in Colorado, and in my district in particular, a very large ecosystem connected to the federal labs and research and scientific centers.
Shutdown could have an immediate impact on the tens of thousands of federal employees in Colorado who could be furloughed or expected to keep working despite a pay disruption. It could complicate holiday travel. Nearly 59,000 TSA agents across the country would still be expected to show up at work for delayed pay, but large numbers of call-outs could lead to longer wait times. Hundreds of millions of dollars in disaster relief funding for Colorado is now uncertain. Democrats on the House Appropriations Committee said Colorado was slated to get $681 million under the original bipartisan deal. It was funding for things like the crop losses after the devastating hailstorm in Yuma earlier this year. NBC News reports that at this point, Republicans are not negotiating with Democrats, whose votes they would need to pass a funding bill if large numbers of Republicans continue to defect. So the path forward to a functioning government is not clear. Whatever you do for a living, I hope that you are wrapping up as successful of a year as Xcel Energy. They made about $1.5 billion this year, and they're asking for $5 billion more from customers to build the grid of the future. Given some of the other things that Xcel has spent your money on, you might be skeptical, but there actually is a legit case to be made for the grid of the future. I don't know why it does that. I move my hands, I hear the sound. Anyway, Marshall Zellinger, take us into that future, please.
Well, Kyle, I really thought the future might look more futuristic than a two-story box fan. It's heat pumps like these, electric vehicles, and solar panels on homes that are putting a strain on Xcel's current infrastructure. That's why Xcel is asking for more money from customers to enhance and create the grid of the It's the one time if Xcel asking customers for something that the customers might actually say, okay, I get it this time.
That soft hum is the sound of a heat pump, an electric way of heating and cooling homes. What you don't hear is the strain on the electric grid, not ready for customers transitioning to heat pumps.
It's like an extension cord. It has a certain rating, and if you are adding more sources or more demands on it, you might need to increase the size of your extension cord.
We went to Xcel Regional Vice President Jack Eiley to find out why Xcel needs to add a new charge to your bill.
Colorado just took the national lead in percentage of EVs sold. As customers seek to do that, as they seek to add heat pumps, we are seeing our demand growth at levels of about 7% per year in the next few years. It used to be 1% per year.
Xcel's plan is to be able to handle more homes with solar panels, 400,000 electric vehicles being charged, and 300,000 heat pumps on homes and businesses. That will require 35 new substations across the state. Where do you put 35 new substations? One of them already has a prime location, well, once the Rockies get better.
A piece of land that we've had reserved for a long time. It's directly across the street from Coors Field.
Of course, Xcel is going to tell you it needs more money for improvements.
The justification behind what they're doing is completely valid.
Salman Mohagagi is not paid by Xcel, but as a Colorado School of Mines electrical engineering professor, he understands the need.
A failure of, let's say, one transmission line or one generation plant can have a domino effect, ramifications across the state. So you might have like a brownout or a blackout for a significant part of the state.
That at some point, there will be a benefit for the customer to reduce costs.
Yes.
I feel like, okay, you're asking for more money from customers to build all this stuff. At what point is it, okay, we've done that, and now you're going to see this, or are we never, ever there?
We're actually seeing rates that are pretty consistent with inflation, so they'll stay real, or sort of constant in real terms, as the economists might say.
Xcel says an average electric customer currently pays about $97 a month. That would go up $1 a month starting in 2026, and by 2029, it would be almost $9 a month more.
That's the price that you have to pay for being able to meet the demand.
Those dollar amounts are not final. The Public Utilities Commission will have final say on any costs passed to customers. Kyle, what if you don't want the heat pump? What if you like gas-powered vehicles and you're never putting solar panels on your home? Can you opt out of the grid of the future? I think that's how you did it. No. Xcel says that you still use electricity and you benefit from the system upgrades.
Marshall, I appreciate the question that you asked him about at what point do the Xcel bills kind of level out, right? Because I think people get it, right? You pay more to get a better, safer infrastructure, but like at what point are we kind of good for a while, you know?
I feel like that's the question we've been asking since we started this coverage 2 years ago, and it's always the carrot on a stick, but then 5 years from now, what if there are more people adopting to electrification, then you need to build more infrastructure, and that graph's going to keep going like this for a while.
Yeah. But I think the secret, Marshall, is that you have to kind of like twinkle your fingers a little bit when you say grid of the future. There it is. All right, Marshall Zellinger, thank you. The city of Denver says that it has reached a major milestone in the city's plan to end unsheltered homelessness. Denver and its federal partners say they've identified every veteran living on the streets of the city and that shelter or housing is being available to every one of those vets.
For the first time ever, no veteran has to sleep on the streets in our city, period. We know where all of our veterans are, we know where to find them, and we have housing available for those that need it.
Mayor Mike Johnston says city employees and VA workers have spent months building a single system where all the city's homeless and veteran services can share information about veterans who don't have a home. What that's supposed to mean is that as soon as a homeless veteran walks into a shelter or contacts a city agency, they can immediately be connected with long-term shelter or housing.
If any veteran walks in the front door of any of our service providers, there's an alert that pops up that says, call this person right now, we will come pick up this veteran and get them indoors.
Mayor Johnston says since the summer, the system's identified 100 homeless veterans and brought them indoors. Now, they can't force somebody into shelter or housing if they're not interested in it. The city says they are still tracking 18 veterans, tracking 18 people by name who are currently staying outdoors. 12 of them have been connected with services and are expected to move into shelter units soon. The other 6 have said no, but the city is still, quite literally, holding space for them. Homelessness in northern Colorado now. Proposal to turn a church into a homeless shelter in Loveland is on hold indefinitely. City Council put the idea on ice and told the dozens of people who had showed up to comment on it that they could all just go home. Loveland Homelessness Task Force has argued the city doesn't have enough resources for the unhoused, says that the first Christian church building near Loveland Burial Park would work as a new 24/7 shelter, and council planned to vote Tuesday night on rezoning the church to allow it. But a split on council led them to decide to postpone that decision until the city can do a study.
We have no plan. So what are you going to do? You put a shelter there and we just open the doors and say, you all come in? This is not good.
My challenge to other council members would be, if you got all the information that Mr. McFall is asking for, if you got it, would you consider it? Or are we just simply looking for a reason to postpone this so that we can come back later and still vote no against it?
And with that, by a split vote, council tabled the idea and outstreamed all the citizens who had come to talk about it. Anyone planning to get newly legal psilocybin treatment in Colorado next year is going to need some real money, because those sessions inside soon-to-be-opened healing centers are expected to cost thousands of dollars, and the treatment won't be covered by insurance. Our Evan Krugel takes a closer look.
To be over-prepared than under-prepared.
At the corner of 14th and Blake in downtown Denver, the walls are painted and the pillows are fluffed as Mickey Vogt prepares to open one of the first healing centers in Colorado.
Yeah, we're even getting ready to have a psychedelic book club.
Beginning next year, Mickey will help guide people through psilocybin therapy sessions.
So this is what we like to call our yoga room.
But the new business venture will not be cheap, with a $6,000 state fee just to get started. Renewal fees will then climb to more than $10,000 by 2027.
I think for everybody, those initial, when Department of Revenue put out that initial fee schedule, it was a little like, we're gonna shoot the program in the foot before it starts.
Mickey says those costs will be passed along to participants, and healing center therapy will not be cheap.
The price tags range depending on where you're going. I've seen it for as little as $500, all the way up to $4,000 and more.
But records show the price tag hasn't stopped people in Oregon from pursuing treatment. The Oregon Health Authority says they've administered nearly 18,000 doses of psilocybin products this year. Mickey says they're already working on ways to help everyone afford the therapy and hopes insurance will one day decide to cover it.
Because at the end of the day, if people can't access it, what's the point of the program? So I think in the beginning, it's really getting it out there as easily as we can to those who need it most, and then figuring out what to do from there.
Now, to put things in comparison, that renewal of $10,500 is about 5 times expensive as the fee to renew a license at a cannabis dispensary. It's more than 20 times as expensive as it is to renew a liquor license. Kyle, the big difference here, those businesses, of course, generate tax revenue.
Sure.
This one does not. That means the only way the state can regulate this industry is to charge those fees to those actually operating it.
Yeah, you wonder if eventually it's going to track like cannabis, and there's just going to be some really big players in the space that are very well financed, right? You know, all right, Evan Krugel, thank you for that.
You bet.
The National Park Service is now backing off a controversial idea that would limit access to Colorado's most popular peaks.
We'll hang on as long as we can, but I'm just saying the writing's on the wall.
After 4 decades on Colfax, a bookstore is worried that an ambitious new construction project means an end for their storied run. Great news tonight for anchors that stay in place for years, even if a lot of people want them gone. The feds are backing off a proposal to limit fixed anchors on climbing routes in Colorado's national parks. National Park Service announced this week that it's dropping a proposal to restrict the use of fixed anchors in federally designated wilderness areas. Those are the bolts that you sometimes see drilled into rock faces. Climbers will use them to safely ascend or rappel down. The proposal would have required all fixed anchors, even ones already installed, to either go through a lengthy review process or be taken out. Some conservation groups supported the proposal as a type of environmental protection, but climbers said this would result in a loss of revenue in and around those parks and would put climbers at risk. So, Corey Reppenhagen, the anchors that have been in one place for a really long time get to stay, even if people want them gone.
Yeah, I can see everybody putting the wrenches away right now because that's a lot of anchor business. You know, this weather pattern has resembled a dead tomato splotched with moldy purple spots because the Grinch has clearly had control of the weather machine here over the last 19 days, but just in the nick of time, Santa Claus is going to bring some snow into the Colorado mountains on Christmas morning. That's the forecast as we see it right now. This storm system right here coming in here, at least in the mountains. You'll have a snowy Christmas morning. It might be a little too late and a little too warm for us here in the Denver area, but we could see a mix, a wintry mix of showers here after about noon. So your forecast for Christmas here so far, we're looking at clouds increasing ahead of that storm system, a wintry mix. Temperature could still reach 50 degrees or warmer before that storm rolls into the Front Range. So winter solstice is on Saturday. That could be a record high temperature, very close here, about 5 or 6 degrees from record. And then you see the forecast going here into your Christmas. Temperatures staying warm, but at least we may have something to watch for your Christmas afternoon.
I wish it had never happened, but it's happening and there's absolutely nothing we can do.
Longtime business is in a tough situation. They're worried the latest project on Colfax could be the end of their chapter. Hey, a reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night at 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus. And Next is now a podcast. Each weeknight, find us wherever you get your podcasts. Finding a good book can be a bit like finding parking in Cap Hill. It might take a frustratingly long search, but you'll eventually find what you need. Unless, of course, Colfax is being torn up for years for a new bus lane project. At this point, not clear if we're talking about books or parking or both. Let's pop into Capitol Hill Books.
Capitol Hill Books, this is Holly. Capitol Hill Books has been here for 44, almost 45 years. It's sort of an icon. Hey, Susan. Hey. You can't name a kind of book that we don't sell. You get people who say, oh, my mom used to bring me here when I was this tall. And that's very heartwarming. Right now, we are getting some Christmas business, but as you can tell, not a lot. You know, the construction just doesn't seem to go away. Well, now they have it all blocked off with, you know, go around signs and so forth. It's $8, please. Recently, sales have gone down so much that we had to let go our third person. So now we only have 2 people that are on the payroll, and I work for free. We're sort of ruined because there's no access. Nobody can drive on this side of the street even, much less park. Yes, they can't park either. So we feel sort of helpless and sad, but maybe a miracle will come. I don't know. Have a nice day.
You too, thank you.
She has the sweetest voice, too. City plans to offer up grants to help businesses get through construction, but those are not going to be available to businesses until next year. I, for one, Marilyn, am going to miss this studio. Only 2 more days in our temporary studio, which is at roughly 32 degrees tonight. Back with your feedback next. Oh boy, a lot of feedback tonight about Xcel's $5 billion ask for an updated grid. Consuelo on Twitter says, no, no, no. This retired person cannot afford higher Xcel bills. Chris on Threads, we're on all the platforms, you can find us anywhere. Chris on Threads says, when did RTD start running Xcel? Chris, there's no need to cuss around here. ND writes in to say, my question is, why won't Xcel reduce the amount that they return to shareholders, or what this person says is their overpaid CEO, instead of constantly demanding more money from the customer? Dollar might be nothing to them, but it will be a burden for many. That's why they have to go to state regulators and ask. They can't just take the money. They have to get approval from the state in order to do it. The Stensbys in Arvada say, buddy, it's 50 degrees out. You're sporting 4 layers. Where is the cold? Does this look cold in here? It's as cold as it looks. And Carol Ann says, Kyle, please do it one more time. You made my day. Do what, Carol Ann? Grid of the future? See you next time.